After 26 years of marriage, she casually admitted cheating over our anniversary dinner. Said she'd do it again. I calmly finished eating while she waited for tears or rage. She got neither. What she got was a divorce lawyer, frozen accounts, and a DNA test that shattered everything. My name is Paul Garrison. I'm 54 years old, and until recently, I thought I had it all figured out. Corporate controller for a mid-sized manufacturing firm, 2 kids who'd grown into decent adults, a house in the suburbs that we'd paid off 5 years early. I worked hard, provided well, and kept my head down. My wife Angela, 52, had been my college sweetheart. We built a life together, or at least I thought we did. That Saturday evening started like any other. I came home from running errands to find Angela in the kitchen, which was unusual. She rarely cooked anymore, claimed she'd done enough of it raising the kids. But there she was, standing at the stove in a black dress I'd never seen before, stirring something that smelled like expensive wine and poor decisions. "You're cooking?" I asked, setting my keys on the counter. She didn't turn around. Thought we could have a nice dinner. Just us. The table was already set. Candles, cloth napkins, the good china we saved for holidays. Red wine in crystal glasses that caught the fading sunlight through the window. It felt staged, like a scene from a movie where someone's about to deliver bad news. I sat down. She brought over 2 plates, some kind of chicken with roasted vegetables. It tasted fine, but my appetite was already fading. Something in her eyes, the way she kept glancing at me, then looking away, told me this wasn't about reconnecting. We ate in near silence for maybe 10 minutes. She refilled her wine glass twice. I hadn't touched mine. Then she set down her fork, leaned back in her chair, and smiled. Not a warm smile. Something colder, almost triumphant. "I need to tell you something," she said. I looked up from my plate. I had a one-night thing. She paused, watching my face for a reaction. And honestly, I'd do it again. The words hung in the air between us like smoke. I could feel her waiting, expecting me to explode, to yell, to demand details. Maybe throw something. That's what she wanted, I realized. A reaction. Drama. Some validation that I still cared enough to lose control. Instead, I picked up my fork and took another bite. Chewed slowly. Swallowed. Set the fork down with deliberate care. "Okay," I said. Her smile faltered for just a moment. "Okay, that's all you have to say." I stood up, picked up my plate, and walked to the sink. Rinsed it off. Dried it. Put it back in the cabinet where it belonged. Behind me, I could hear her shifting in her chair, the confusion in her silence. "Paul, are you even listening to me?" I turned around, looked at her directly. "I heard you." Then I walked upstairs to our bedroom, closed the door, and sat on the edge of the bed. My hands weren't shaking. My breathing was steady. Because this wasn't a surprise. Not really. It was confirmation. And I'd been preparing for this moment longer than she could possibly imagine. The folder on my laptop labeled Contingency Plan had been growing for 8 months. Bank statements, email archives, security camera footage she didn't know I'd backed up to the cloud. I'd learned to be patient, to document everything, to wait for her to make the first move. And now she had. By morning, when she expected her usual coffee brought to her bedside like I'd done for over 2 decades, she'd discover that some routines die quietly. No shouting, no begging, just the sound of her world beginning to shift beneath her feet, one locked account at a time. Sunday mornings used to follow a rhythm. I'd wake at 6:30, go downstairs, grind the coffee beans Angela preferred from that overpriced shop downtown, brew a full pot, pour her a cup with exactly 1 cream and half a sugar, carry it upstairs on the wooden tray her mother gave us years ago. She'd stretch, smile, pretend we were still the couple from our wedding photos. That morning, I woke at 6:30 like always. But instead of heading to the kitchen, I got dressed. Dress pants, button-down shirt, the navy blazer I wore to quarterly board meetings. I combed my hair, splashed on cologne, grabbed my leather briefcase from the closet. By 7:15, I was walking down the stairs, keys in hand, when I heard movement from the bedroom. Angela's voice, groggy and confused, drifted through the door. "Paul, are you making coffee?" I didn't answer, just kept walking. In the kitchen, I poured myself a glass of water, drank it slowly while looking out the window at our backyard. The swing set we'd built for the kids was still there, rusted now, but standing. I remembered Logan at 5, Natalie at 3, both of them laughing while I pushed them higher and higher. Angela had been inside, on the phone with her mother, barely watching. I heard footsteps on the stairs. Faster now. Urgent. She appeared in the kitchen doorway, hair messy, wearing that silk robe I'd bought her for Christmas 3 years ago. The one she said was too expensive, but wore constantly when she wanted to feel elegant. "Where are you going?" she asked. I set the glass in the sink. Out. I'll wear. It's Sunday morning. I picked up my briefcase, looked at her directly. The password to the joint checking account has been changed. Her face went blank. What? You heard me. I walked past her toward the front door. She followed, her voice rising. Paul, what are you talking about? Why would you change the password? I opened the door, stepped outside into the cool morning air. Try logging in. You'll see. Paul. She was standing on the porch now, barefoot, arms crossed. This is ridiculous. Change it back. I got in my car, started the engine. Through the windshield, I could see her face shifting from confusion to anger. She pulled out her phone, probably trying to access the account right there. I knew what she'd see. Access denied. I backed out of the driveway and drove away. In my rearview mirror, she was still standing there, phone in hand, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. I didn't go to the office. I went to a coffee shop 3 towns over, the kind of place where nobody knew me. Ordered a black coffee and a bagel, sat by the window, and pulled out my phone. 3 missed calls from Angela already. Then a text. What the hell is going on? Another. You're being dramatic. Another. I don't have time for this. Fix the account. I silenced my phone and opened my email. The message I drafted last night was still there, ready to send. Subject line, account access update. Recipients, our financial advisor, our accountant, our estate attorney. I hit send. Within 20 minutes, Angela would try calling all 3 of them. They'd all tell her the same thing. Mr. Garrison has requested temporary restrictions on joint assets, pending legal review. For questions, please consult independent counsel. Independent counsel. Those 2 words would land like a hammer. I finished my coffee, opened my laptop, and started reviewing the next phase. By noon, her spa membership would bounce. By 2, the wine club payment would fail. By evening, the automatic payment for her car lease would be declined. I wasn't destroying anything. I was simply removing my participation. Quietly, methodically, letting her discover, piece by piece, how much of her comfortable life had been built on my silence. She thought my calm last night meant I didn't care. She was about to learn it meant I'd already moved on. By Monday morning, Angela's world was starting to fray at the edges. I knew because I designed it that way. Every thread I'd been holding up for years, I was now letting go, one by one, watching to see how long it took her to notice the structure collapsing. I went to work like normal. Checked emails, reviewed financial reports, attended the morning operations meeting. My assistant Karen asked if I was feeling all right. I told her I'd never felt better, and I meant it. Around 10, my phone started buzzing. Angela. I let it go to voicemail. Then another call. Then 3 texts in rapid succession. The spa called. They said my membership payment failed. My credit card was declined to the grocery store. Paul, what did you do? I pocketed my phone and went back to work. At lunch, I drove to my attorney's office. Not the estate attorney we'd used together, the one who'd handle my father's will. A different one. Philip Crane, divorce specialist, former prosecutor, the kind of lawyer who didn't take cases he couldn't win. His office was downtown, 12th floor, windows overlooking the river. Professional, intimidating, exactly what I needed. Paul, he said, shaking my hand. Good to see you. Have a seat. I'd contacted Philip 3 months ago, laid out the situation in broad strokes. Suspected infidelity, need for asset protection. He'd give me a roadmap, document everything, secure finances, wait for confirmation. Now I had it. She confessed, I said, settling into the leather chair across from his desk. Saturday night. Said outright. One night thing, and she'd do it again. Philip nodded slowly, jotting notes on his legal pad. Witnesses. Just me. But I have the recordings. His eyebrow raised. Recordings. Home security system. Audio and video. She doesn't know it backs up to cloud storage. I have the entire conversation. He set down his pen. That's solid. What else do you have? I pulled out a thumb drive from my briefcase, slid it across his desk. Bank records showing irregular spending. Hotel charges on her credit card. Text messages between her and someone named Travis Keller. He's a consultant at her friend's marketing firm. They met at some networking event 8 months ago. Philip plugged in the drive, pulled up the files on his computer. He scrolled through them silently, his expression unchanging. After several minutes, he looked up. "This is thorough. Very thorough. I'm a controller," I said. "Details are kind of my thing." He smiled slightly. "Well, your attention to detail is about to save you a lot of money and headache. With this evidence, we can file for fault-based divorce. Adultery's still grounds in this state. It affects alimony, asset division, everything." "Good. I want to move quickly." "How quickly?" "I've already frozen joint accounts." "She's probably figured that out by now." "I want the paperwork filed by end of week." Philip leaned back in his chair, studying me. "You understand this is going to get ugly. She'll fight back. Let her fight. How about the high ground?" He nodded. "All right. I'll draft the petition today. We'll include the evidence of adultery, request temporary restraining orders on asset movement, and file for full dissolution. You'll need to be prepared for her response." "I'm prepared." We shook hands. I left his office feeling lighter than I had in months. The machinery was in motion now. Legal, methodical, irreversible. When I got back to my car, I had 14 missed calls from Angela. I deleted them all without listening. She'd wanted my attention. Now she had it. Just not the kind she expected. Angela was waiting when I got home that evening. Not in the kitchen, not upstairs, but in the living room, sitting on the couch with her arms crossed and her face set in that expression I'd seen 1,000 times before. The one that said she was the reasonable one, and I was being difficult. "We need to talk," she said the moment I walked through the door. I set my briefcase down, took off my jacket, hung it on the hook. "About what?" "Don't play down, Paul. You know exactly what." I walked past her into the kitchen, opened the refrigerator, pulled out a bottle of water. She followed me, her heels clicking on the tile floor. "You locked me out of our accounts," she said, voice rising. "Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was? My card got declined to Whole Foods, in front of people I know." I took a drink of water, looked at her calmly. "You should have kept a separate emergency fund. Financial planning 101. Her face flushed. "This is our money, Paul. You can't just lock me out." "Actually, I can." And I did. "Why?" "Because I told you the truth. Because I was honest." I set the water bottle down on the counter. "You call that honesty? Sitting me down at dinner, smirking while you tell me you cheated and you'd do it again? That's not honesty, Angela. That's cruelty. I thought you could handle it. You're always so calm, so controlled. I thought you wouldn't even care. You thought wrong." She stepped closer, her voice dropping to something almost pleading. "Paul, come on. It was one mistake. One night. It didn't mean anything. Then why'd you say you'd do it again?" She faltered. "I don't know. I was angry. I felt trapped. You're always working, always focused on everything but me. So you cheated. I made a mistake." "No," I said, meeting her eyes. "You made a choice, and now I'm making mine." Her expression shifted, fear creeping in behind the anger. "What does that mean?" "It means you should probably find yourself a lawyer." The color drained from her face. "A lawyer?" "Paul, you're not serious." "Dead serious. You can't just throw away 26 years over one night." I picked up my water, moved toward the stairs. "I'm not throwing anything away. You already did that." "Paul, wait." I stopped, turned back. "Do you know what the worst part is? It's not the cheating. It's that you thought I was too weak to do anything about it. You thought you could tell me to my face, watch me sit there and take it, and then we just go back to normal. Like I'm some kind of doormat. I never said that. You didn't have to." I went upstairs, closed the bedroom door, and locked it. Behind me, I could hear her pacing in the hallway, her breathing heavy. Eventually, she knocked. "Paul, open the door." I didn't answer. "Paul, please. We can fix this." I pulled out my phone, opened the folder with the recordings, and listened. Her voice, clear as day. I had a one-night thing. And honestly, I'd do it again. I saved the file one more time, just to be sure. Then I lay down on the bed and closed my eyes. Tomorrow, Philip would file the paperwork. By the end of the week, Angela would be served. And by the end of the month, she'd realize that the calm, controlled husband she'd taken for granted had been quietly preparing to dismantle everything she thought she could control. She wanted honesty? She was about to get more than she bargained for. Wednesday afternoon, the envelope arrived. Plain manila, no return address, just a lab logo in the corner. I've been waiting for it, checking the mailbox twice a day like a nervous teenager waiting for college acceptance letters. I opened it in my car, parked 3 blocks from the house. Inside were 2 lab reports, printed on official letterhead with case numbers and timestamps. Clinical. Indisputable. The first test showed what I'd expected. Logan, our son, 29 years old, police officer, my pride and joy. 99.9% probability of paternity. My blood. My DNA. My son. The second test hit different. Natalie, 22. College graduate. The girl I'd walked her first day of kindergarten, taught to ride a bike, scared away bad boyfriends from. 0% probability of paternity. Excluded as biological father. I sat there for 10 minutes, staring at the words. Part of me had suspected. Natalie had always looked different, acted different. Angela's family said she took after Angela's father, and I'd accepted that explanation for 22 years. But the timeline had always bothered me. Angela had gone to a work conference in Atlanta 9 months before Natalie was born. Came back different, distant. I pushed it down, told myself I was being paranoid. Now I had proof. My hands were steady as I pulled out my phone and called Philip. I've got something else, I said when he answered. DNA results. Natalie isn't mine. Silence on the other end. Then, you're certain? Lab confirmed it. Tested both kids. Logan's mine. Natalie isn't. This changes things. How do you want to handle it? I looked at the report again, at the numbers that rewrote 22 years of my life. I don't tell Natalie. Not yet. She doesn't deserve to have her world destroyed because of her mother's choices. But I want this in the divorce filing. I want Angela to know I know. That'll be a hell of a card to play. She dealt the hand. I drove home. Angela's car wasn't in the driveway, which was fine. I went to my office, scanned the DNA reports, and added them to the growing file Philip would present in court. Then I sat at my desk and did something I hadn't done in years. I cried. Not for Angela. Not for the marriage. For Natalie, the little girl who'd called me daddy for 22 years, who still called every Sunday to talk about her week, who'd asked me to walk her down the aisle someday. Biology didn't change what we'd built. I was her father in every way that mattered. But Angela had stolen something from both of us, had lied every single day for over 2 decades, and that betrayal cut deeper than anything else. When Angela got home that evening, I was in the kitchen making dinner. She walked in cautiously, like approaching a wild animal. "Paul," she said softly, "can we please talk?" I plated my food, didn't look at her. Nothing to talk about. There's everything to talk about. This is our marriage. Our family. I turned to face her. "Tell me about Atlanta." Her face went white. "What? 23 years ago. That work conference you went to. In Atlanta. Tell me about it." She swallowed hard. "I don't understand what that has to do with." "Who's Natalie's father, Angela?" The silence that followed was deafening. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came out. "That's what I thought," I said, and walked past her with my plate. Behind me, I heard her start to cry, but I didn't stop, didn't comfort her, didn't give her the absolution she wanted. She'd had 22 years to tell me the truth. Now she'd have to live with the consequences. Thursday morning, Logan showed up at my office. He was in uniform, badge and gun visible. That serious expression cops were when they're about to deliver bad news or ask hard questions. My assistant buzzed me. "Paul, your son's here to see you. Send him in." Logan closed the door behind him, didn't sit down. Just stood there, arms crossed, looking at me the way he probably looked at suspects. "Dad, what's going on?" I leaned back in my chair. "Your mother didn't tell you?" "She called me crying last night. Something about DNA tests in Atlanta. She wasn't making much sense." I pulled up the scanned report on my computer, turned the screen toward him. "Natalie isn't biologically mine." He stared at the report for a long moment. Then he sat down heavily in the chair across from my desk. "Jesus. Yeah. Does Natalie know?" "Not yet. I don't want her to know until I figure out how to tell her." "If I tell her..." Logan ran a hand over his face. "This is insane. I saw Mom with that guy a year ago. And now this? How long has she been lying?" 22 years, apparently. He looked up at me, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Anger. Raw, protective anger. "I'm sorry, Dad. I should have said something when I saw her. I should have. This isn't on you, son. This is on her. Still, you didn't deserve any of this." We sat in silence for a moment. Then Logan straightened up, his jaw set. "I'm with you. Whatever you need. Mom made her choices. You're my father. That's it. I appreciate that. What about Natalie? When are you going to tell her? I don't know yet. Maybe never. She doesn't need to carry this. Logan nodded slowly. She's going to find out eventually. Mom will probably tell her herself. Try to get sympathy. Let her try. Natalie's smart. She'll see through it. You gonna keep a relationship with Nat? After all this? I met his eyes. She's my daughter. Biology doesn't change that. I raised her. I love her. Angela's lies don't erase 22 years. Logan's expression softened. Good. Because Nat worships you. Always has. I know. He stood up, adjusted his duty belt. I gotta get back to work. But Dad, seriously, whatever you need, you call me, day or night. We shook hands. Then he pulled me into a hug. The kind of hug men give when words aren't enough. When I let go, he looked at me one more time. Mom thought you were weak because you're quiet. But I've watched you my whole life. You're the strongest man I know. After he left, I sat alone in my office, staring at nothing. My son had my back. My daughter, biological or not, was still my daughter. And Angela was about to discover that destroying a family has consequences. The process server would be at the house in 2 hours. By tonight, she'd be holding divorce papers. By next week, she'd be sitting across from her own lawyer, trying to figure out how badly she'd miscalculated. And I'd be moving forward. Without her. Without the lies. Finally free. Angela's unraveling accelerated over the next week. I watched it happen from a distance, through texts from Logan, calls from neighbors, reports from Philip's office. She'd become erratic, desperate, making moves that only dug her hole deeper. First, she tried to access our retirement accounts. Found them locked. Called the investment firm. Demanded they restore her access. They referred her to their legal department. The legal department referred her back to me. She left me 8 voicemails that day alone. I didn't listen to a single one. Then she went to our country club, the one where we'd been members for 15 years. Tried to charge lunch to our account. The card was declined. She made a scene. According to Margaret from Philip's office, whose sister worked there, raised her voice at the hostess, demanded to speak to the manager, claimed I was financially abusing her. They politely asked her to leave. By Wednesday, she'd hired a lawyer. Not a good one, either. Some guy named Rick Brennan who advertised on bus benches and late-night cable. Philip said he'd looked him up. 3 years out of law school, mostly handled DUIs and small claims. Going up against Philip was like bringing a butter knife to a gunfight. Thursday afternoon, I got a call for Natalie. She'd flown home from Chicago where she'd been working her first real job out of college. Marketing coordinator for a tech startup. She sounded exhausted. Dad, can we meet somewhere? Just you and me. We met at a coffee shop downtown, the kind with exposed brick and overpriced lattes. Natalie looked tired, her eyes red like she'd been crying on the plane. Mom called me, she said after we sat down. Told me you're divorcing her because of one mistake. Said you're being vindictive and cruel. I sipped my coffee, waited. Then I called Logan. He told me the truth. About the affair. About the lies. About, she paused, swallowed hard. About Atlanta. About the DNA test. My heart sank. Logan shouldn't have told you that. Yes, he should have. I deserve to know. She looked at me directly, tears starting to form. Why didn't you tell me? Because you didn't need to carry that weight. I'm not a child anymore, Dad. I'm 22 years old. I can handle the truth. Can you? She wiped her eyes. I don't know. Right now, I feel like my entire life has been a lie. But that doesn't change how I feel about you. Natalie, you're my father, she said firmly, her voice breaking but strong. I don't care what some DNA test says. You're the one who taught me to ride a bike, who sat through every dance recital, every volleyball game, every parent-teacher conference. You're the one who helped me move into my dorm room and cried when you said goodbye. That's what matters. I reached across the table, took her hand. You're my daughter. Nothing changes that. Does the biological father know? I don't even know who he is. Your mother's never said. She pulled her hand back, anger flashing in her eyes. Of course she hasn't, because she's a coward. She had 22 years to tell us both the truth, and she chose to keep lying. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. I'm not. I'm glad I know, because now I understand why you're doing this. It's not about vindictiveness or cruelty. It's about self-respect. You deserve better than what she gave you. We talked for another hour. She told me about her job, her apartment, the guy she'd been seeing. Normal father-daughter conversation. despite the abnormal circumstances. When we hugged goodbye in the parking lot, she held on tight. I love you, Dad. I love you too, sweetheart. I'm not going to see Mom for a while. I can't. Not until I figure out how to process all of this. That's your choice. I won't influence it either way. She stepped back, looked at me with something like admiration. Logan was right. You're stronger than anyone gives you credit for, including Mom. After she left, I sat in my car for a long time. My daughter, biological or not, had chosen me. My son had my back, and Angela was discovering that burning bridges leaves you stranded on the wrong side of the river. Philip called that evening. Angela's lawyer filed a response, denying adultery, claiming reconciliation is possible, requesting spousal support. Let him request. We've got evidence that says otherwise. Agreed. We'll file our countermotion Monday. In the meantime, her lawyer wants to meet. Settlement discussion. Already, he knows they're going to lose. He's trying to minimize damage. No settlement. This goes to court. You sure? It'll cost more, take longer. I'm sure. She want to play games. Now she gets to see how they end. The following week, Angela's friends started abandoning her. I heard about it through Karen, my assistant, whose husband played golf with Tom Reynolds, whose wife Linda was in Angela's book club. Small-town information networks are better than any surveillance system. Linda had apparently confronted Angela during their Tuesday meeting, asked her point-blank about the affair, about the divorce, about whether the rumors were true. Angela had tried to spin it, paint herself as the victim of my controlling behavior. But Linda's husband was an attorney, and she'd seen enough divorce cases to recognize a cheater's playbook. If you lied to your husband for this long, Linda had said, how do I know you haven't been lying to us? The book club voted her out, 8-1, with only her cousin Emily dissenting. Her tennis partner, Diane, sent her a text saying she needed to focus on other priorities. Translation: she didn't want to be associated with the scandal. Even her hairdresser, according to Karen's sources, had suddenly become fully booked when Angela tried to make an appointment. Angela was experiencing something she'd never had to face before. Consequences. Real ones. Social exile. Financial pressure. The cold reality that actions have repercussions. By Friday, she'd left me 17 voicemails and twice as many texts. I'd read none of them. Philip advised me to keep it that way. Anything you say can be used against you. Let her lawyer handle communication. That evening, I had dinner with Logan and his wife Sarah at their place across town. Natalie had flown back to Chicago, but called in via video. It felt surreal, sitting there with my kids, talking about their mother like she was a stranger we once knew. She's been calling me nonstop, Sarah said. She was a nurse, practical and no-nonsense. Exactly the kind of woman Logan needed. Asking me to convince Logan to talk to you, to get you to change your mind. I told her I wasn't getting involved. Good, Logan said. This isn't your problem, babe. Natalie's face on the phone screen looked thoughtful. Do you think she'll try to contact the biological father? Use it against you somehow? She might, I said, but it won't matter. I raised you. The law recognizes that. Even if she finds him, it doesn't change the divorce proceedings. What about money? Sarah asked. I mean, you've locked her out of everything. What's she living on? She's got her own credit cards. The ones I didn't know about, apparently. Philip found statements showing about $80,000 in debt. I took a drink of water. She's been spending money we didn't have on a lifestyle she couldn't afford. When those bills come due, that's on her. Logan shook his head. I can't believe I grew up thinking you two had a good marriage. We did for a while. Then we didn't. I just stayed quiet too long. You weren't quiet, Natalie said from the screen. You were patient. There's a difference. After dinner, Logan walked me to my car. The night air was cool, stars visible above the streetlights. Dad, I gotta ask, are you doing okay? Like really okay? I considered the question. You know what? Yeah, I am. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm not walking on eggshells. I'm not wondering what mood she'll be in, whether she's lying to me, whether I'm crazy for suspecting things. I'm just living my life. It's peaceful. Good. You deserve peace. So do you. So does Natalie. And so does Sarah. Your mother's choices don't get to poison all of us. He hugged me again, that solid embrace that reminded me I'd raised a good man. Love you, Pops. Love you too, son. Driving home to my temporary apartment, I realized something. Angela had spent weeks trying to break me, trying to make me regret filing for divorce, trying to manipulate our kids into taking her side. But every move she made only pushed people further away. She was her own worst enemy, and I didn't have to do anything except stand firm and let her destroy herself. Justice, I learned, doesn't always require action. Sometimes it just requires patience. The divorce hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in late October. Philip had warned me it might not even go to trial if Angela's lawyer had any sense. But Rick Brennan apparently believed he could perform a miracle with no evidence and a guilty client. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, an American flag in the corner. Judge Patricia Harmon presiding, a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and a reputation for no-nonsense rulings. Angela sat at the other table with Brennan, wearing a conservative navy dress and minimal jewelry. The wronged wife costume. She glanced at me once when I walked in. I didn't acknowledge it. Philip laid out our case methodically, presented the security footage of Angela's confession, bank records showing her secret spending, the hotel receipts, text messages with Travis Keller stretching back 9 months. Each piece of evidence was time-stamped, documented, irrefutable. Then he presented the DNA results. Your Honor, we have laboratory confirmation that the defendant's daughter, Natalie Garrison, is not biologically related to my client. Mrs. Garrison concealed this information for 22 years, maintaining a pattern of deception that extended far beyond the recent adultery. Angela's face went white. Brennan looked like he'd been hit with a brick. He stood up, fumbling with his notes. Your Honor, this is highly prejudicial information that has no bearing on the current dissolution. It has every bearing, Philip interrupted smoothly. It speaks to Mrs. Garrison's character, her willingness to deceive, and her complete disregard for the sanctity of marriage and family. This wasn't a mistake or a momentary lapse. This was calculated, sustained dishonesty spanning decades. Judge Harmon studied the DNA report. Then she looked at Angela. Mrs. Garrison, did you know the child was not your husband's? Angela's lawyer whispered something to her. She nodded, spoke quietly. Yes, Your Honor. And you never disclosed this to your husband? No, Your Honor. 22 years of deception. The judge's tone was flat, disapproving. She set down the document. Continue, Mr. Crane. Philip smiled slightly. Your Honor, given the evidence of adultery, sustained deception, and Mrs. Garrison's significant personal debt of $80,000, we request a finding of fault, denial of spousal support, and equitable distribution of assets weighted in favor of my client. Brennan tried to rally, called Angela to the stand, had her explain how our marriage had been difficult, how I was emotionally distant, how she'd made one regrettable mistake. She cried on cue, dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Judge Harmon looked unimpressed. Then Philip cross-examined. He was surgical, precise, leaving her nowhere to hide. Mrs. Garrison, you testified you made one mistake. How many times did you meet with Mr. Keller? I don't remember exactly. We have documentation of 17 separate hotel visits over 8 months. Does that refresh your memory? Her lawyer objected. The judge overruled it. And Mrs. Garrison, when you discovered you were pregnant with Natalie, did you attempt to determine paternity? I assumed. Yes or no, please? No. So for 22 years, you allowed your husband to raise and financially support a child you knew might not be his, without ever giving him the option to know the truth. She didn't answer. Just stare at her hands. No further questions, Your Honor. The judge took less than 20 minutes to deliberate. When she returned, her expression told the story before she spoke. I find in favor of the plaintiff. Marriage dissolved on grounds of adultery. No spousal support awarded. Assets to be divided 60-40 in favor of Mr. Garrison. Mrs. Garrison is responsible for all personal debts incurred in her name. Custody of any minor children is not applicable. Mr. Garrison retains all pension and retirement benefits accrued during the marriage. Angela's face crumbled. Brennan started to stand, probably to object, but the judge held up her hand. This case is concluded. Papers will be filed by end of business today. It was over. Outside the courthouse, Philip shook my hand. That was one of the cleanest wins I've had in years. Congratulations. Thank you. What will you do now? I looked up at the sky, clear and blue despite the autumn chill. Lie my life. Finally, 10 months later, I stood in the backyard of my new house, smaller than the old one but mine alone, watching Logan help me assemble a new grill. Natalie was inside making potato salad, and Sarah was setting up the patio furniture we bought last week. Life had settled into something I barely recognized. Peaceful. Simple. Mine. The divorce had been finalized that November. Angela moved into a small apartment across town, started working as a receptionist at a dental office. Her friends never came back. Her debt followed her like a shadow. I heard through Logan that she tried to reach out to Travis Keller, but he blocked her number. Turns out affair partners don't usually stick around when the fantasy becomes reality. I'd sold the old house, split the proceeds according to the court order, bought this place with cash, no mortgage, no ties to the past. 3 bedrooms, a decent yard, quiet neighborhood. Everything I needed and nothing I didn't. Hand me that wrench, Logan said, pointing. I passed it over, watched him tighten the last bolt on the grill assembly. Thanks for helping with this. No problem, Pops. What are we grilling anyway? Steaks. The good ones. Nice. Natalie came out carrying a bowl, followed by Sarah with paper plates. Food's ready when you are. We sat around the new patio table, the 4 of us, eating and talking about nothing important. Sarah's new nursing job, Logan's promotion to detective, Natalie's upcoming presentation at work, normal family conversation, the kind I'd missed for years. Have you heard from Mom? Natalie asked eventually, her tone carefully neutral. No. You. She texted last week. Asked if we could meet for coffee. What did you say? That I wasn't ready yet. Maybe someday, but not now. She picked at her salad. Is that terrible? It's honest, I said. That's all you can be. Logan raised his beer. To honesty. And to Dad, who showed us what integrity looks like even when it's hard. We clinked bottles and glasses. Sarah smiled at me. Have you thought about dating? Sarah, Logan warned. What? It's a fair question. He's not a monk. I laughed. Maybe eventually. Right now, I'm just enjoying the quiet. The quiet's overrated, Natalie said, grinning. You should get out there. You're a catch, Dad. Corporate controller. Own house. Good credit score. You're basically a unicorn in the dating market. I'll keep that in mind. But the truth was, I wasn't in a hurry. For 26 years, I'd structured my life around someone else's needs, moods, demands. Now I had time to figure out what I actually wanted, who I was without the weight of a failing marriage dragging me down. Later, after everyone had left and the sun was setting, I sat on my back porch with a beer and my phone, pulled up the photos from today. Logan laughing at something Sarah said. Natalie with potato salad on her nose. Normal moments. Happy moments. I thought about Angela sometimes. Wondered if she understood yet what she'd thrown away. Probably not. People like her rarely do. They're too busy rewriting history, making themselves the victim, refusing to accept that their choices have consequences. But that wasn't my problem anymore. I'd spent 8 months planning my exit, documenting evidence, building a case. And when the moment came, I'd executed it with precision. No yelling, no drama, just quiet, methodical dismantling of a life that had been built on lies. My phone buzzed. Text from Philip. Ran into Angela's lawyer today. Asked about you. Told him you're doing great. He said Angela's struggling. Thought you should know. I read it twice, then deleted it. Her struggles weren't my concern anymore. I was free, truly free, and that freedom was worth more than 26 years of pretending ever could be. The night was cool, stars starting to appear above the trees. I finished my beer, went inside, and locked the door behind me. Tomorrow I go to work, have lunch with Karen, who become a real friend over the past months. Maybe hit the gym. Simple things. Peaceful things. My things. Angela had wanted to destroy me with her confession. Instead, she'd freed me, and I'd never felt stronger in my life.